Good morning, afternoon, or evening, viewers. You are here with Kayla Evans, which is myself, and Dr. Nicholas Neaves. I myself am the owner and founder of Laurel Crown Corporations. I am a 30-year-old woman who is very passionate about people, about business, about ministry. And I just try to always immerse myself in it. And lately, I've been feeling there's a need for us in entrepreneurship, in ministry, just in life to come together and explore life's beauty in all facets and in all assets of life. My passion is definitely holistic wellness and beauty, and I'm in business in that area as well. But I'd like to tell you a bit about Laurel Crown. Now, Laurel Crown is an umbrella for all of those in family. I want to say leaders in family, in the marketplace, in entrepreneurship or ministry. And my idea is to really edify us, empower us, inspire us through connection, valuable connections, which can be made on this platform via Facebook or YouTube. And I'm just looking at partnering with people like Dr. Nicholas Neaves, who are interested in my passions as well as others' passions, like building healthy relationships, sustainable lifestyles from a holistic aspect and perspective of life, looking at the human being as mind, body, and spirit, the mind being the soul, and really harnessing life's essence of contentment and love. In all forms of who we are and who we pursue to be and what we pursue to fulfill as well. So that is Laurel Crown. Myself and a few of my friends like Dr. Nicholas Neaves will be sharing and exploring what we've learned together and as individuals. So Dr. Nicholas Neaves, I've been journeying with for a short while now, but I think we've definitely connected via common interests. And yeah, we'll just be digging into some healthy relationship building topics. As I feel in this time and in this season, we definitely have a passion out there for building stronger and healthier relationships. So yes, this is Dr. Nicholas Neaves. Welcome.
Hi guys, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Dr. Nicholas, can you please share with us a bit about Unbound coaching and also just a bit about yourself so we can have a bit of an understanding of your journey, what it's looked like, what you're working towards. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about you.
Thank you so much. So I enjoy platforms like this because the mission that I have is to help someone take their heart from being bound to an unbound place. I believe that our hearts are our biggest batteries in life. And what I mean by a battery is if you look at your cell phone and you recognize by the end of the day, your battery's gone flat and you've got to plug it in and recharge it again. I see a very similar thing metaphorically with our hearts, right? Where we want to plug in our hearts into our passions, our purposes, and recharge that heart on a daily basis. But so few of us actually know how to do that because we're so bound by our pasts, our traumas, some of the relationships that have been really painful and hurtful in our lives. And my own personal journey, and I'll keep it short for our listeners as I'd like to jump into the juicy questions we have, is I lost my wife 9 years ago, and that's been my biggest sort of, I would say, loss trauma in my life with respect to understanding what a bound heart is and how that heart, through the grace of God, was able to become unbound in healing, and how that process was a lot quicker than I thought it would be to help me become present again and therefore be able to offer my services and be available to my children for parenting too, So I've been in clinical practice now for 23 years. The practice as a therapist is one where I offer therapy, but also coaching. I enjoy the coaching element because that also helps us get present in today's actual experience and then to go forward versus just lingering in the past so much, right? So it's a nice combination of the two. So I'm really happy to be here and hear what questions we have.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. Okay, so digging in, Kind of before we go ahead, if there's anyone who would like to reach out to your practice and would like some assistance, how would they reach you?
Thanks for that. The best option is the email, and the email address is hello, HELLO, at drneaves.com. So it's DRNEAVES.com. Hello at drneaves.com. That's the best. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Lovely. So for those of you who would like to reach out, please do. I've seen his practice briefly just make a lot of impact and change personally. Just the wisdom that he shared has been so immense. I mean, it's through his personal experiences as well as the knowledge and wisdom that he's gained. So definitely, if you feel you need support or guidance in any area of life, reach out. He's always there to assist as his capacity allows. Okay, great. So we are dealing with relationship building. And one of the things that I've noticed, Dr. Neaves, is that patience, understanding, and forgiveness can be very challenging. I think our processes in those areas often look very different. And I think that is why these three elements are so important. Because of our individual differences, our individuality, we are so unique in who we are and who we need to be to live our lives the way God has intended each one of us to live it. That patience, understanding, and forgiveness is really two principles that can help us navigate through life. So I'd like to ask you, how would we apply things or characteristic traits like patience, understanding, and forgiveness, not just within our relationships with others, but also in our relationship with ourselves? Could we delve into that?
Absolutely. It's a vast subject. It's a beautiful subject. It's a beautiful subject. What I hear you sharing there was three very specific relationships, right? I heard you saying a relationship, one with God, secondly, a relationship with ourselves, and thirdly, then a relationship with another, right? So, and I said those in order, okay? Relationship
Yes.
with God, relationship with ourselves, and then a relationship with another. In other words, you know, we're sitting on this planet in this big pot of humanity, and it's like a giant cauldron of human beings trying to find themselves and understand themselves. And I've never met a person, even those with quite severe pathology, who would not externalize some sort of experience of a creator, right? So when I do my work, I'm very non-judgmental when it comes to belief systems and things like that. So I always help a person, whether they're Christian or Muslim or whatever, even atheists, to have an understanding of something greater than themselves. We need that to humble ourselves to the reality that we are on our own, absolutely. We're in our own thoughts and our own feelings, but we are also here because of some other greater experience, okay? Being a Christian, I have my beliefs around that, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners as well. But that first relationship, then to be able to get outside of ourselves and have that with that creates is very important because of that humbling process. Otherwise, what happens is, as individuals who are feeling alone, we develop quite a strong ego identity, meaning we have to develop an identity within ourselves that we can use to interact in the world. And that identity often is very much based in a selfish sort of projection of our needs. And therefore, we tend to become quite rampant in that projection and start to almost use our environment and others to get those needs met without that element of patience, compassion, understanding, etc. Okay. And we can only really get that understanding of those three elements by giving ourselves over, surrendering to that creator, so that we can be in a humble space to recognize it's not just about us. There are other people running around out there having their experience. Therefore, I have a different set of values to another person. And then I'll also realize that people will only ever be true to their set of values, never my set of values. And it's therefore my job in my belief of my creator to align to those values of that belief system so that I can live as truthfully as I can through that value system and integrate my own personal values with that. In other words, the more I can become unbound and open my heart, I'm recognizing what I value, what I naturally gravitate towards as far as my desires, wants, where I want to spend my money, my time, my energy, and to really start to embrace that and be authentic in that expression. But then to recognize that, you know what, even if I've got people close to me, family members or whoever, they have the exact same dynamic going on, and therefore their values are just as respectable and allowed as mine are. And therefore, if I
Mm.
can understand that my motivations and actions in life are based on those value systems, therefore others are doing the exact same thing. So what it comes down to then ultimately is the art of being able to understand my values, their values, and then how do we meet in the middle and actually use communication so that you get what you need and I get what I need, that we have a fulfilling relationship. What happens in trauma is people often disrespect each other's value systems, and we come in and we plunder that person to get our needs met, and we infringe upon them, particularly as with young children, and we don't allow them the opportunity to be able to be themselves, and we just literally come and take from them, leaving them feeling very disempowered and empty and really hurt, creating an even stronger ego defense, which now then becomes an issue later on in relationships, because that ego defense is where we become bound in our heart, and therefore we are unable to then actually lower those defenses and therefore be intimate and vulnerable with another person because we've been through trauma and we've been through hurt. So we get very stuck in our own values because we have to defend ourselves and protect ourselves, and therefore we don't have the ability often with greater empathy to understand what's happening in the other person's life so that we can trust that I can get my needs met and you can get your needs met. Because when I was a child, I
Mm.
got traumatized. When I tried to express my needs or get my needs met, they got taken away from me. It was only about the other person.
Mm.
It wasn't about me. So how am I supposed to trust? And forgiveness, therefore, becomes a journey around healing and not so much the misunderstood version of forgiveness, which is um, I forgive you now and therefore everything is okay. No, that's a theoretical understanding of forgiveness. Forgiveness only truly happens when you can open your heart to love, appreciation, and gratitude for what has happened to you and have the acceptance and allowing for that experience to integrate itself into your life. And therefore, you free yourself and the other person from that actual traumatic event. Forgiveness doesn't happen before then. Unfortunately, we walk around thinking, that forgiveness is what it's about. For me, the greater word is love, and Jesus came
Mm.
to really truly love ourselves and to be unconditionally loving. And he was the most perfect example of unconditional love. And I believe our quest is to be able to also love others as much as we possibly can in an unconditional capacity, even the bad things that happen to us. And it's a challenge, but that's the coaching, that's the journeys into that
Mm.
part to help free people from that. So when a person starts a coaching or therapeutic journey, that's the beginning of forgiveness for themselves for having been so bound for so long and therefore deprived of life's wonderful joys for so long. That's where people say forgiveness is not about the other, it's about yourself. It's about freeing yourself from that entanglement. And that part of it I agree with. So compassion, patience, understanding start with your connection with God, relationship, then the connection with yourself through awareness, doing things like coaching, reading, understanding things that you can understand what your value system is, and therefore recognize that people are different from you. And therefore, we need a mutual respect where we can meet in the middle with great communication, and that is an art. And then to be able to offer compassion not only to yourself and others for where we go wrong, and the things that we do to each other. And that's a healing journey for all of us, and may God bless us all with a good long life so that we can get to that place of more forgiveness and love for ourselves and others too.
Awesome. So, Nick, as you were sharing, there was something that really stood out to me. And it's actually got to do with our next question. I see we've still got some time. So, if you'd allow me the grace, I just would like to ask. Um, you spoke about meeting halfway, right? Which
Mm,
speaks to me of compromise. And then you also mentioned that mutual respect is an art, which I believe compromise is too, because it comes through mutual respect. Now, as a an individual, how would we facilitate this process? Do you have some tips, some nuggets for us as to how we could do this in a manner that doesn't impose pressure on another,
Mm,
but also doesn't impose unnecessary pressure on ourselves?
mm,
Because we already face so many pressures out there on a daily basis, you know,
yeah.
and we're being pulled in so many different relationships. Life
Mm,
has, and just not relationships. I mean, there's finance, there's business, there's career, there's family. It's all of these things pulling us, you know. And if we come back to the core of who we are and our practices in relationship with God, relationship with self, and relationship with others, how do we manage the compromise and mutual respect there? Because those two things we can apply to all three elements, you know, in our relationship with God. I believe there is compromise and mutual respect. He showed that. Jesus showed that in his walk here. There were many other apostles, prophets, you know, I mean, he's the son of God, yes, but there are many spiritual leaders, leaders in ministry who often share that in their relationships, these were two foundational principles that really help them. So, how would we facilitate this into our life and into our thinking so that it can manifest within our lives around us?
yeah, great. It's a great question. So that core that you spoke about is very important and being pulled in different directions. You know, there's so many distractions, and I think the key word here is values. All right. So it's about understanding that, let's say, each person has about, say, top 4 values that they really enjoy in their life. Okay. And they will really struggle to compromise on those values because they want to see those values met more of the time. So the art to relationship is not compromise, it's collaboration. Okay, compromise means there's a part of me that I have to give up in order to be with you. And not many of us really like that idea. It's better to say, I'm going to be who I am and like what I like. And therefore, how can I collaborate with what you are and what you like? And how do we meet in the middle and create a win-win dynamic there? Because the further away your values are, hey, if you have really close values, that's one thing. But the further away your values are, in other words, the more different you are, the more you have to compromise. And I haven't seen relationships often succeeding from this place, right? So obviously, the more you match up in the beginning and you have a more similar value system, it's a little easier because then the compromise is less. Okay, that's important for people to realize. And with skill, and some of the tips there are to obviously have the self-awareness to know what you value and then be able to know how to bring that into a relationship from a compassionate, empathetic point of view to get your needs met. So the more I know myself, I know what I value, and therefore, based on what I value, I know what my needs are in respect to those values. Okay. Therefore, I have a strong sense of my core and my identity as Nicholas. Okay.
Mm.
And the stronger that is, it is because I've been unconditionally loved in my perhaps family and environment to know that that is allowed and it is okay. Now, very few people actually have that. Unfortunately, very few people were unconditionally loved to the extent that who they are and what their core is based on their values and therefore their needs is allowed. People don't always have that message. So they go and try and find that in relationship to another. And they hope the other person will somehow fill a void or help them understand themselves better or give them more of what they need. So at first, the first tip is you have to become self-aware in and around what you value and what you need and learn to choose that and love that despite the cards that you've been dealt and start to become grateful for who you are, what you have. From that place, you start to recognize how I can self-regulate myself. I can do what I need to do to get through my day, my week. And in fact, actually, I'm not just getting through, I'm actually loving it. I'm actually getting out of this place of survival and going more to what we would call a more flowing state of thriving. And therefore, I'm really excited about my life and who I am. And therefore, I want to experience that with someone else who's on a similar sort of level as me. So it starts with that self-awareness. That's the first tip. And then what happens in relationship dynamics is the ability to, communicate to someone else in terms of what they value, so that they open up to you and they want to be a part of your life. People, and I've seen it time and time again, people only really respond and move towards us if they can recognize and see that there is some value in it for them. Why else would we be, meeting up with someone? So the more clearer you are on what you are looking for and valuing, you could start to, with confidence, ask for it more directly. And that's what people are just generally so bad at doing, because we all don't have enough awareness of what those things are in the first place. You know what I mean? I mean, if we just use a very simple example, and if I'm going to bring in this subject because it's quite a good subject. I love talking about the subject, not just because I'm a man, but it's going to wake up our listeners as well a little bit. But let's look at a sexual relationship between two people. The one partner wants sex 5 times a week. The other person only wants it twice a week. Okay, what now, right? So what happens is the person who wants it 5 times a week, depending on their level of awareness and confidence, they'll compromise to make the other person happy and just do it twice a week. But now every week they are 3 lovemaking sessions behind in their mind, so they feel resentment building up, right? Okay, as an example. I mean, it could be anything. Okay, I just chose that subject, but it could be anything, right? Now, if they become aware that they like it 5 times a week, they can look at their partner and go, well, this person only likes it twice a week. So did I choose the right person in the first place? That's a good question to ask. Secondly, how do I go to my partner and say, honestly and vulnerably, I like it 5 times a week? Can we come to some sort of collaboration here in and around how often we do this, because I'm becoming unhappy? Okay. And then the person can go, okay, well, gosh, I didn't know you wanted 5 times. I hear you. I like it twice a week. I'm happy to meet you halfway. Could we try for 3 times a week?
Yes.
And I can go, okay, well, that's amazing. Thank you for even being open to this in the first place. That's great. I'll be happy to meet you 3 times a week. So for the next 3 weeks, let's collaborate on that. Let's try and meet 3 times a week to make this happen. Could you get the example of where I'm going with that, right?
The
It's a
practicality of collaboration.
collaboration. But you see where it started? It started with the awareness and honesty that I want 5. Okay. It starts from the awareness and honesty of the other person who's got the self-confidence and therefore the self-identity to also be able to confidently say, I only want it twice. And therefore 5 and 2 don't add up. But that doesn't mean that the relationship is under threat. What the next step is, collaboration. Most people see 2 and see 5 and they freak out and they break up because they don't see where the compromise can happen. And they stay like this for years, right? And they argue and they fight from this place. But the successful relationships are where the couple can recognize the difference of 5 and 2 and say, okay, let's go to 3, right? So 3 and 3. Now we're on the same page. And that's the art. And that's coaching. And a lot of people need a lot of coaching, a lot of therapy to get to that point where they can actually do that, because that's not a skill. Most people didn't have a parent who could do that with them with regards to something else. Maybe Johnny likes to kick the soccer ball with dad every day after school, but dad's busy and dad only does it once a week. Now Johnny doesn't get that need met, but he doesn't know how to ask dad for it every day because dad's busy and Johnny doesn't get that need met. So Johnny grows up recognizing that his needs aren't important. He's not important. I'm not really worth being played with. So therefore, I have low self-esteem. And it doesn't take a lot to hurt a child. I can promise you, if Johnny has that need to kick that ball every day with his dad, and it doesn't happen, that child will come out of that childhood with trauma. And that's just been my experience. We don't need major sexual trauma or accidents or crazy stuff happening in families. It can just be an absent afternoon of kicking the ball. It can be a nappy being changed too late. It can be not getting the right food that we want. Whatever it is, if those basic needs are not consistently met, we often don't survive our childhoods with a healthy self-esteem, which is really sad. And then that's why relationships get pretty complicated, So I hope that answered your question.
Wow, Nick. If I can be honest, will you help me make the shift in my mindset? Because collaboration is obviously something I've been working on and really embracing in business. But there's a lot that I learned in business and in ministry that I'm now having to apply within my personal life.
Mm,
And you really helped me make the shift between compromise and collaboration.
mm,
And I mean, what was it, just a week or two ago, you helped me see how, being self-aware, yes, is valuable. And identifying your needs and your values is also quite impactful. But then I struggled with communicating it. And that was the nugget you gave me, and you shared it again today.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah,
Takes
I think
courage.
communication can be a tricky thing, but when we practice it more and more, we learn. We learn from our mistakes and we learn from our successes within communication.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for what you've shared today. I'm grateful for opening us to your practice, to your platform, and just to all your experience, because it's really made a big impact in my life. And I'm glad now that we can share it with those that come in contact with my platform. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
pleasure,
very
absolute
much for
pleasure.
joining us today.
Thank, sorry to talk over your words there, but thank you for the affirmation acknowledgement. You spot on there with it takes courage to communicate those needs. And yeah, I wish for our viewers to take that step. And I think that relationship with God is crucial to know that there is that to fall back on, and you will be allowed to express yourself, even if the people around you are not open to it. God is always open, man, 24 hours a day, And the
Amen.
more, yeah,
Amen.
I mean, like the more we can strengthen that relationship and just, you know, but yeah, that also needs to be authentic. And one day we can talk about that. But thank you. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, look forward to the next one.
Awesome. To our viewers, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Yeah, we'll be trying to roll out some consistent feeds for you. Yeah, so keep your eyes peeled. You may join Unbound Coaching. Nick, is that a group or a page on Facebook?
It's a Facebook
Okay.
page and Bound Coaching. Yeah.
And okay, cool. So you can join the Facebook page. Okay, sorry. I just saw the notification. You can buy, you can buy, you can buy you can join the Unbound Coaching Facebook page. And then Laurel Crown has a Facebook group. You're welcome to join there. And we've got our YouTube channels up and running as well. I've found Dr. Nicholas Neaves on YouTube, so you can subscribe to his channel. He does share some things there. And then I've got Laurel Crown on YouTube, which you can join. But as for this content, you'll find it on Laurel Crown on YouTube and then the Facebook group Laurel Crown as well. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Goodbye, Nick.
Ciao now. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.